The rain fell in heavy sheets, turning the streets into rivers of water that reflected the dull orange glow of the city lights. The cold night wind cut through every layer of clothing, but no one dared to walk outside. Most people stayed inside their apartments or offices, watching the rain bounce off metal and glass. Somewhere in the distance, the city's sirens wailed softly, but no one knew why. On the deserted streets, something moved. It was huge, larger than any human or vehicle. Its body was wet and glistening, scales cracking in the cold. Its wings were torn, dragging on the wet pavement, and every step it took left deep grooves in the asphalt. The creature had eyes, but they were clouded, blind. It stumbled over garbage cans and fallen signs, as if feeling the world with its senses rather than seeing it. People inside their buildings whispered rumors. Some said it was a dangerous alien, come to destroy the city. Some said it was a government experiment gone wrong. Nobody was brave enough to go outside and check. Drones hovered above, scanning the streets, but they made no attempt to stop the creature. Perhaps the machines, designed to protect humans, sensed it was not an enemy. The dragon moved slowly, dragging its tail and breathing heavily. Every time it shifted, its scales scraped against the metal of broken pipes and railings. The sound was like a low thunder rolling through the empty streets. Its head turned left, then right, searching, confused. The rain poured into its nostrils and ears, but it kept moving, trying to find something it could not see. At the edge of the industrial district, near an unfinished construction zone, the creature finally slowed. It had walked too far and tripped over fallen steel beams. Its body pressed against the cold concrete, and one of its wings was trapped underneath a heavy girder. The dragon tried to lift it, but only managed a weak shiver and a soft groan. Water dripped from its cracked scales, making its breathing noisy and uneven. No one came close. People from nearby buildings peeked through broken windows, holding their breath. Nobody wanted to be the first to step into the rain. But the dragon did not roar or attack. It did not even growl. It was lost and in pain. Its world had been dark for a long time, and now the streets were a strange maze it could not navigate. Gareth Cole walked through the rain, his boots squelching in puddles. He was a human foreman, used to long shifts and dangerous construction work. Tonight, he had stayed late to check the security of an abandoned site. When he heard the scraping sound, the deep, heavy breathing, he froze. He had heard stories of aliens, of creatures too dangerous to approach, but this was different. The sound did not carry anger or hatred. It carried pain. Gareth moved carefully, one foot in front of the other, trying not to startle the creature. The closer he got, the more he could see its size. Its head was as large as a truck, its wings torn and wet, and its tail stretched down the street like a broken tree. But its eyes were empty, like a blind child trying to find its way home. He took a deep breath and called softly, "Hey, can you hear me?" The dragon's head twitched, its blind gaze turning in his direction. It sniffed the air, uncertain, and then shivered violently. Gareth's heart pounded. Most people would have run. Most people would have screamed or shot at it. But Gareth had spent his life helping things move, build, and survive. He knew fear, but he also knew courage. He took another step, careful and slow. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "Just let me help." The dragon made a small rumbling sound in response. Its chest heaved and the trapped wing twitched. Gareth saw that the steel beam pinning the wing was heavy, but not unmovable. He knelt in the wet street, pulling a crowbar from his belt. Rain soaked him, but he ignored it. Step by step, he lifted the beam, careful not to crush the creature further. The dragon moved slightly, pressing its head against the ground. It smelled Gareth's human scent, and for the first time in hours, it felt something familiar. Safety. Warmth. Trust. Finally, the beam was free. Gareth pulled it away, dragging it with a wet, slippery effort. The dragon's wing was torn, but it could move it now. It shifted its massive body slightly but did not run. Gareth put a thermal tarp over it, offering warmth against the cold night rain. He spoke softly, telling it was okay, that the rain would not hurt it, that someone was here. The dragon listened. Not with its eyes, but with everything else it had. Its ears, its nose, the tremors of the street beneath its feet. It sensed the human's calmness, his confidence. And slowly it relaxed. In the distance, sirens grew louder. Emergency lights blinked on buildings and drones hovered closer. But Gareth stayed with the dragon. He did not run, he did not shout, he only stayed, offering comfort in the middle of the cold, wet city. The rain continued to fall, but now it was not just fear that filled the streets. It was hope. A human had chosen to face the unknown, to protect a creature that no one else understood. And the dragon, blind and wounded, had finally found someone it could trust. For the first time that night the city felt still. Not empty, not abandoned, but alive. Because in the heart of the storm, two beings, one human, one alien, shared a moment that no fear, no cold, and no rain could destroy. The dragon shifted slightly, pressing its massive head closer to Gareth as if to say thank you. And in the rain, on the cold streets of the city, something new had begun. Gareth Cole sat on the wet pavement, listening to the dragon's slow, uneven breathing. The rain was still falling, cold and heavy, soaking him to the bone, but he did not move. Around them the city was silent. The usual hum of traffic, the chatter of late-night workers, even the distant sirens, all were gone as if the world had stopped to watch. The dragon, blind and wounded, shivered under the tarp. Its massive wings twitched occasionally, testing the freedom they had regained. Gareth could see the cuts along its scales, raw and bleeding, and he knew it needed more than just warmth. He had worked in construction long enough to handle heavy machinery and dangerous situations, but nothing had prepared him for this. Still, fear did not guide him. Curiosity and compassion did. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small bag of supplies he always carried for late-night work. A first aid kit, some thermal wraps, and a few rations. Kneeling beside the dragon, he gently dabbed at the blood on its scales with antiseptic wipes. The dragon twitched but did not resist. It was blind, yes, but it could sense Gareth's careful hands. "You're hurt, I know," Gareth whispered. "We'll fix that, I promise." The dragon made a low rumbling sound, almost like a sigh. Its chest heaved, each breath shaking the tarp slightly. Gareth noticed how it tilted its head, trying to catch sounds in the rain. Its body was massive, far larger than any human or vehicle, yet there was a fragility in the way it moved, a vulnerability that made Gareth's chest tighten. He began wrapping the torn wing with the thermal bandages. The dragon let out a low, vibrating hum as if it understood he was trying to help. Every so often, it shuffled closer, pressing its head lightly against his shoulder. Gareth could feel the warmth of its body through the wet tarp. Even in the cold, it radiated a strange, gentle heat. Gareth paused, listening to the distant sound of drones approaching. The city had not forgotten this creature. Authorities would come soon, and they would see it as a threat, not a wounded, blind alien. He knew that if they arrived too quickly they might harm it or worse, kill it. But he could not leave it alone. Not now, not ever. "Stay calm," he murmured. "I won't let them hurt you. I promise." The dragon rumbled again, a sound that seemed almost like a whisper. It shifted, moving closer to Gareth's side. Its tail wrapped partially around his legs, heavy but gentle. He could feel its heartbeat, a slow, steady thrum that seemed ancient, almost wise. Gareth realized then that this creature was not just a monster or a weapon. It was alive and it was scared. He stood carefully, keeping one hand on the dragon to reassure it. He scanned the surroundings. The construction site offered some protection. Metal beams and scaffolding could block the view from drones or patrolling units. If he moved carefully, he could guide the dragon to a safer corner. He gestured slowly with his free hand, and the dragon followed his movements, trusting the human's voice and presence. Step by step they moved. The dragon's claws made deep impressions in the wet concrete, and its massive body scraped against steel beams. Gareth's heart pounded, but he never panicked. He had to stay calm. Fear would only make the dragon nervous. Slowly, they reached a section of the site that was partially covered, a place where the rain fell less and the shadows were deeper. The dragon pressed its head into a corner, lying down, exhausted. Gareth knelt beside it again. He tore open a ration pack, offering it carefully. The dragon sniffed at the food with its large snout and then hesitated. Gareth whispered softly, "It's okay. You can eat. You're safe here." Finally, the dragon used its clawed hand to pick up the food awkwardly. It was clumsy, but it ate. Gareth smiled, the sound of the creature eating bringing him a strange sense of relief. While it ate, he inspected the rest of its body. Its scales had deep scratches, some almost reaching the muscle beneath. Gareth's hands moved carefully, cleaning minor cuts and wrapping them with the thermal bandages. The dragon made small, quiet noises, neither pain nor pleasure, but an acknowledgement that the human was helping. Time passed slowly. The rain continued and the night grew colder, but Gareth stayed. He spoke to the dragon softly, telling it about the city, about humans, and about why he had not run. "Most people would have been afraid," he said. "But I've learned something. Fear can be stronger than you think, but so can trust." The dragon shifted slightly as if understanding. Its massive head rested on Gareth's knees, its blind eyes facing nowhere, yet full of awareness. It had been hunted, injured, and alone, But here was a human who had chosen to stay to help rather than flee. That simple act changed everything. Far in the distance, lights of approaching vehicles flickered. Gareth could hear the low hum of engines, the occasional beep of sensors scanning for the creature. He knew they were coming. But he did not panic. He moved closer to the dragon, placing himself between it and the noise. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "I'm here. I won't leave you." The dragon pressed closer, a slow rumble vibrating through its chest. It was tired, but it seemed to sense safety. Gareth smiled, exhausted, wet and cold but satisfied. He had taken a risk by not running, and the reward was more than survival. It was trust, and perhaps the beginning of a friendship that could change everything. The night carried on, rain falling steadily, cold wind blowing, but in the corner of the construction site, a human and a blind alien dragon sat together. One had chosen courage over fear, the other had chosen trust over despair. And in that small, wet corner of the city, hope began to grow, quiet but strong. For the first time, the dragon felt that not all humans were enemies. And for the first time, Gareth understood that bravery was not about fighting, it was about staying when everyone else ran. The rain continued, but now it felt different. It was no longer just cold and lonely. It was alive, full of possibility, because two beings had found each other in the middle of the storm. Gareth sat beside the dragon, letting the rain wash off the dirt from its cracked scales. The storm had calmed slightly, turning into a steady drizzle, but the city still smelled of wet metal and smoke. He could hear the low hum of machines and the distant chatter of drones, scanning the area for any unusual movement. But here, in the corner of the abandoned construction site, the dragon was quiet, almost peaceful. He studied the creature closely. Its body was enormous, far larger than any animal he had ever seen. Its wings were torn, the membranes hanging like shredded fabric. Its claws dug shallow holes into the concrete as it shifted. The eyes were cloudy, empty, blind, yet Gareth sensed intelligence behind them. This was no mindless monster. Something in its movements, the way it sniffed the air, the way it tilted its head at his voice, told him it had a mind, a history, a story. "Where did you come from?" he asked softly. "And why are you here?" The dragon tilted its head slightly, listening. It made a soft rumbling noise, almost like a sigh. Gareth did not expect an answer, not with words. But he could feel that the dragon understood him. It had been hunted. That much was clear. Scars covered its body, and the way it moved showed caution and fear. It had survived something terrible. Gareth dug into his jacket again and pulled out a small scanner he used at work to detect metal flaws. He waved it slowly over the dragon's body. It beeped faintly in places, showing old injuries and strange embedded objects. Small tracking devices, tiny remnants of alien technology, were lodged under its scales. It had been captured before and somehow it had escaped. He whispered, "You're not just lost, you've run from something worse than this city." The dragon shifted closer to him. Its massive head rested lightly on Gareth's shoulder. Its warmth seeped through the wet tarp in the cold night. Gareth could feel the creature's fear slowly melting, replaced by a fragile trust. He realized that this dragon had never experienced kindness. Every being it had met before had either hunted it or ignored it. Humans had likely seemed dangerous, yet here he was, staying, helping, speaking softly. Suddenly, a small noise came from the other side of the site, a metallic scrape, careful, quiet. Gareth froze. His hand rested on the dragon's wing. The creature lifted its head slightly, listening. The sound repeated. Someone was approaching, but they moved differently than the drones or the patrols. They were precise, quiet, almost like hunters. Gareth whispered, "Stay calm. Don't move." The dragon's chest rumbled, a warning, but it stayed down, trusting Gareth. From the shadows, a figure emerged, wearing a tight black suit with lights on its shoulders. It was small compared to the dragon, but its movements were calculated, professional. Gareth's heart pounded. He knew this was not city authorities, this was something else. Something alien. The figure stopped a few meters away. A small device scanned the dragon. Its light blinked, then turned red. Gareth realized with a chill that this hunter had been tracking the dragon across planets, waiting for it to appear. The dragon had escaped from far worse than Earth. Its blindness was no accident. Its species had been hunted deliberately, their eyes damaged to prevent them from escaping or navigating in space. He looked down at the dragon, now trembling slightly. "They've hurt you before, haven't they?" he whispered. The creature pressed its head closer, as if acknowledging the truth. Gareth's mind raced. He could call for help, alert the authorities, but he knew what would happen. The dragon would be taken away, experimented on, or killed. The city's people, the government, the soldiers, they did not understand. They would see only a massive alien creature. But he saw something more, a being that deserved mercy, trust, and protection. He stood slowly, keeping himself between the dragon and the hunter. "You're not going to take it," he said firmly. The hunter paused, tilting its head, scanning Gareth, scanning the dragon. Its small device emitted a soft beep. It seemed confused. Gareth realized that it had not expected humans to act with courage, to protect rather than attack. He reached for the dragon's massive head, resting his hand on its scales. "It's safe here," he whispered. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The hunter hesitated, then backed away slightly. It seemed to understand in its own way that this human was different. That here the rules were not the same. Gareth's voice, calm but strong, had created a shield. Over the next few minutes, the hunter retreated into the shadows, and the rain continued to fall. Gareth knelt beside the dragon again, running his hands along its wounded wings. He felt its ragged breathing slow, its muscles relax. This creature, blind and hunted, had finally found safety, even if only for the moment. He began talking quietly, softly describing what he knew of the city, of humans, of ordinary life. The dragon listened. Not with eyes but with all its senses. It sensed his calmness, his resolve, the warmth of his heart. Slowly, it pressed its massive head against his chest, a gesture of trust, of gratitude. Gareth realized then that this dragon had a secret, a story buried beneath its scales. It had survived countless attacks, fled through space, lost its sight, and yet it was alive. And now, here on Earth, it had found a human who did not run. A human who chose compassion over fear. He whispered, "You're not alone anymore. Not while I'm here." For the first time since it landed on Earth, the dragon shifted fully onto its side, relaxing completely. Its long tail curled gently around a puddle, its wings still torn but no longer tense. The rain washed over them both, and in that quiet moment, a fragile peace settled between human and alien. Gareth knew the night was far from over. Authorities, drones, and perhaps more hunters would arrive. But he also knew that fear alone did not decide the outcome. Courage, patience, and understanding could. He had already chosen. He would not abandon this creature. The dragon, blind and injured, had secrets buried deep in its body and soul. But beneath the scales, Gareth sensed something more, strength. Strength that had survived cruelty, fear, and endless flight. And now, it would have a chance to survive with humanity with him. As the drizzle turned lighter and the city lights reflected off wet metal, Gareth rested his hand on the dragon's head, feeling the warmth, the heartbeat, and the silent intelligence beneath the scales. The night was long, the dangers were real, but for the first time, the dragon understood something it had never known before. It was not alone. The city lights blinked through the rain, reflecting off puddles that ran like tiny rivers along the streets. Gareth Cole stood in the construction site, his hand on the dragon's massive head, feeling the slow rhythm of its breathing. The storm had faded into a light drizzle, but the tension in the air had not. He could hear engines humming in the distance, lights moving closer, and the faint sound of orders being shouted over radios. The authorities had found them. Drones circled overhead, scanning the area, and armored vehicles stopped at the edge of the site. Soldiers stepped out, weapons raised. They did not understand the dragon. To them it was a threat. To Gareth it was a friend in need, a living being that deserved mercy. "Step back," he shouted, his voice strong, carrying over the rain. "It won't hurt anyone." The soldiers hesitated, confused by his boldness. The dragon shifted slightly, raising its head, its eyes still blind but sensing danger. It rumbled low in its chest, not an attack but a warning. Gareth moved closer to the dragon, keeping himself between it and the humans with guns. "Listen," he said, speaking slowly so both the soldiers and the dragon could understand him. "It is scared, not dangerous. It has been hurt before. It does not want to fight." One of the soldiers, a young woman with a tight grip on her weapon, stepped forward. "Sir, it's huge. We can't risk it getting close. Orders are clear. We have to neutralize." "No," Gareth shouted, cutting her off. "You don't understand. If you attack it, you will make it defend itself. Then someone will get hurt and it will be your fault. Calm down. Stand down. Watch, don't act." The dragon rumbled again, slower this time, and lowered its head slightly. It sensed Gareth's calm voice, the human's courage and steady presence. Slowly, it followed his gestures, shifting its massive body carefully, not in aggression but in obedience. Gareth took a deep breath and raised his arms slowly, signaling both sides to pause. "It can sense fear and so can I. But I do not fear it. You do not need to either. Stand down and watch. A drone hovered lower, shining its bright searchlight on the dragon's cracked scales. The dragon flinched but did not attack. Gareth whispered, "It's okay. Don't be afraid." The creature pressed its head against his chest again, seeking comfort, needing trust. The soldiers whispered among themselves, unsure what to do. Gareth could see fear in their eyes but also hesitation. The human side of them, the part that could understand, the part that could choose compassion, was awake. He had bought them a moment, and in that moment the dragon had a chance. From the corner of his eye, Gareth noticed the dragon's wings twitch. They were torn, yes, but it could still move if needed. He knew that one wrong step, one sudden movement from the soldiers, could make the creature panic. And if it panicked, no one would survive. He spoke again, calmly, clearly, so the dragon could hear him and the humans could understand. "You see? It's not attacking. It just wants to live. If we can all stay calm, no one gets hurt. Watch it. Watch me. Trust me." The dragon's chest rumbled in acknowledgement. Slowly, it moved slightly forward, following Gareth's voice, its massive claws sliding over wet concrete without striking or scratching anything. The soldiers froze. They had never seen anything like this. A human standing between them and a creature that could destroy the city, speaking softly, and commanding respect not with weapons but with courage. Gareth stepped back a little, letting the dragon follow. He guided it toward a corner of the site where metal beams created partial shelter. The creature lowered its body, pressing gently against the structures, safe and calm under his guidance. The soldiers relaxed just slightly, seeing that the dragon was not attacking, seeing that Gareth's courage was working. "Do you see?" he said, addressing both dragon and humans. "We can choose. We do not have to fight. Fear makes monsters. Trust makes allies. Stand back, watch, and you will see the difference." The drone's light swept over them again. The dragon flinched, but Gareth's hand on its head was steady, soothing. He whispered words in a low, calm voice. "Not now. Not yet. We wait together." Minutes passed. Rain fell lightly. The city seemed to hold its breath. Soldiers lowered their weapons slightly, communicating silently with each other. They had expected destruction, chaos, fire, but instead they saw trust. They saw a human risking everything to protect a creature no one else could understand. The dragon shifted its massive body, rolling slightly, and pressed closer to Gareth. It was blind, hurt, hunted across the stars, yet it felt safety here for the first time. And Gareth, standing in the rain, wet and exhausted, realized something important. True strength is not measured by guns, armor, or power. True strength is measured by the courage to protect what is vulnerable, even when everyone else runs. Gareth looked at the soldiers, their hesitation now visible in every movement. "See," he said. "This is not a battle. This is a choice. Choose mercy. Choose patience. Choose courage." Slowly, the soldiers began to move back, creating a wide circle around the construction site. No weapons were fired. No one approached recklessly. They understood, at least in part, what Gareth was trying to show them, that fear could be overcome by presence and trust. The dragon pressed its head closer to Gareth, rumbled softly, and lowered its wings slightly. It had followed every instruction, every soft command, and it was alive and calm because of him. Gareth felt a deep sense of relief. The night had been dangerous, yes, but they had survived. Not because of weapons, not because of power, but because humanity, one human, had chosen the right thing. The rain continued to fall, washing away dirt and grime, leaving the streets glistening under the city lights. For the first time that night there was peace. Not the peace of silence or submission, but the peace of courage, trust, and understanding. The dragon, blind and wounded, had survived the night. Gareth, soaked and tired, had proven that standing between fear and fire could save lives. He whispered to the creature, "You're safe now, for a while. We'll figure out the rest together." The dragon rumbled in response, pressing its head against him as if it understood. In the middle of the rainy city, under flickering lights and humming drones, humanity had made a choice. It had chosen compassion over fear, courage over panic, and hope over destruction. And that choice, quiet and simple, had changed everything. For the dragon it meant survival. For Gareth, it meant proving that humans could be more than just survivors. They could be protectors. And in the cold drizzle of the city night, the bond between human and alien grew stronger, ready to face whatever came next. The sun rose slowly over the city, turning the wet streets from gray to gold. The rain had stopped completely, leaving the air fresh and cool. Gareth Cole stood beside the dragon, looking out over the rooftops. The creature had slept most of the night, its massive body curled protectively in the corner of the construction site. Its blind eyes, clouded and empty for so long, now showed signs of healing. Small sensors and human-made treatments had begun restoring its sight, giving it glimpses of the world it had never fully seen. The dragon Veilrix lifted its head and sniffed the morning air. It had survived the night thanks to Gareth, and now it was awake to a new possibility. The city that had seemed full of danger yesterday now appeared alive with light and movement. Cars moved slowly, workers appeared on rooftops, and the distant hum of life reminded Veilrix that it was no longer alone. It had a protector, a guide, and a friend in Gareth. Gareth knelt beside it, gently placing a hand on its massive head. "You see that?" he asked softly. "That's humanity. Not everyone here is cruel. Not everyone is afraid. Some of us protect, some of us care. And we're going to help you now." Veilrix made a low rumble, a sound of understanding. Its blind eyes had already adjusted slightly to the light, and now it could sense shapes and movement. Slowly, it raised its wings, flexing them cautiously. They were still torn but stronger than yesterday. Gareth watched with relief. The dragon had survived its worst injuries and was beginning to recover fully. News of the previous night spread quickly. Drones had captured footage of Gareth standing between armed soldiers and the massive alien creature. People across the city and even other planets saw it. Many expected chaos, destruction, and death. But instead they saw courage, compassion, and humanity at its best. The video went viral, showing that one human could make a difference, even against a creature so feared and misunderstood. Authorities arrived later, but not with guns this time. Scientists, engineers, and specialists came to help. They examined Veilrix carefully, treating its remaining injuries and repairing the damage to its wings. They explained to Gareth that Veilrix's species had been hunted across the galaxy, their eyes damaged so they could not escape or see. The dragon had survived horrors that humans could not imagine, and yet it had trusted one human enough to let him help. Gareth smiled as he watched Veilrix test its wings again. They stretched and flexed, and the dragon gave a small, pleased rumble. The bond between them had grown stronger over the past night. Gareth realized something important. Courage and trust were stronger than fear, and compassion was more powerful than any weapon. With the help of humans, Veilrix was able to move outside the construction site. It stepped carefully into the city streets, no longer blind, no longer lost. Children and adults alike stopped to watch, some running to see the magnificent creature, some hiding in awe. But Veilrix did not attack. It only observed, its massive head tilting as it looked at humans for the first time. It sensed their curiosity, their fear, and most importantly, their respect. Gareth walked beside it, guiding it gently. "This city is safe," he said. "And so are you. People are learning. They are starting to understand. Not all humans are afraid of what they don't know. Some of us see it differently." Veilrix lowered its head to the ground, brushing it lightly against Gareth's shoulder, a gesture of trust and gratitude. It had never known kindness like this. Across the galaxy, its species had been hunted, betrayed, and abandoned. But now, on Earth, it found not only safety but respect. Humans had earned it, not with fear or weapons but with patience, courage, and heart. In the following days, Veilrix became a silent guardian of the city. It did not attack unless necessary. It did not destroy. It observed, it protected, and it inspired. The people slowly grew accustomed to its presence. Children laughed as they watched its massive wings fold gracefully. Adults marveled at its intelligence and patience. Scientists studied it but not to control it. They learned from it. Humanity's image in the galaxy shifted. Humans were not just survivors, they were protectors, capable of courage that even the fiercest alien beasts respected. Gareth often stood beside Veilrix, watching over the city together. They had become partners in a quiet way, each learning from the other. The dragon had learned trust, patience, and care. Gareth had learned that courage was not in fighting alone, but in standing between fear and danger to protect what was vulnerable. One evening, as the sun set behind tall buildings, Veilrix lifted its head to the sky, wings stretching wide. It had regained much of its vision and strength. For the first time, it could see the stars clearly, the same stars it had once traveled through, now shining above a planet that had welcomed it instead of hunting it. It rumbled softly, a sound of contentment and hope. Gareth smiled, feeling the warmth of the moment. "You see humanity now," he whispered. "And humanity sees you. Not as a monster, not as a weapon, but as a life to protect. You've survived the worst, and now, together, we can show the galaxy what it means to care." The city around them continued its evening life, Cars moving, people talking, lights shining. But above it all, a dragon and a human stood together, proof that courage, trust, and compassion could overcome fear. Veilrix had been blind, hunted, and lost, yet it now saw more than it ever had. It saw humanity and it saw hope. And humanity, for its part, had learned the same lesson. Strength was not measured by power, destruction, or fear. True strength was mercy, courage, and the choice to protect life even when it was terrifying. The dragon lifted into the air slowly, wings stretching wide, casting a shadow over the city. It circled above the streets, watching over the people who had saved it, the city that had accepted it. Gareth stood below, looking up, feeling pride and awe. They had survived together, and in that survival they had changed the world. Veilrix returned to the ground, resting its massive head lightly on Gareth's shoulder once more. It was a gesture of friendship, trust, and understanding. The dragon had once roamed blindly through fear and pain, but now it roamed with purpose, and it was not alone. Together, human and dragon stood in the golden morning light, ready to face the future. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as allies. And the city, once cold and dangerous, now shone with the quiet power of courage, mercy, and hope. The dragon saw humanity. And humanity had risen to meet it,